I'd like to ask everybody to please stand for the posting of the colors.
Bluetooth connected.
Present. Halt. Order.
We're going to stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the commander of Camp Salisbury, Commander J.L. Whitehead.
We did pretty good, I think. So thank you all for coming out. We've got some people that we're going to let's say a few words, and I appreciate them coming out also. First, Sheriff Tim Smith.
Thank you all. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today to honor Franklin Southwood. As a combat veteran myself, I appreciate the sacrifice that was made during World War II for all of us to have our freedoms. Again, it's an honor and privilege to be here, and I'm so thankful that this board was put together to help bring out his name and make sure everybody understands and knows who he is. You can talk about anybody and they'll know the picture, they'll recognize the picture, but to make sure we're honoring our hometown heroes, it's a wonderful thing, and I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be a part of it, and thank you to all those members of the group and the family for being here today. Thank you all.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Woody Clark, can you come up and say a few words?
I'd like to, on behalf of VFW Post 1834, which bears the name Frank R. Salisbury, I thank everybody for coming out. Special thanks to Camp Salisbury. They've done an awesome job with this sign. And again, thank everybody for coming out. Thank you.
All right. Next person I met, I think within the first year or so of Camp Salisbury, and he's become the face of Camp Salisbury because all of our vehicles, our T-shirts, anything that is promotional, once you read it, he does it for us. He's done a tremendous job. And he did that sign, and so I had Winston come up and say a few words.
Thank you. Oh, I made a bit of a speech for this. My name is Winston Reeder of Live Wire Printing. We're a print shop that focuses on wraps and apparel. My business started right out of high school in 2015, and In 2016, I met Jay Whitehead. And when I first got into working with vinyl, I was only 19 years old at the time, and Jay gave me the chance nobody else would with vinyl projects, and a lot of our very first vinyl projects you can find at Camp Salsley. I've done everything for that camp, from that bus to that van to the decor to the plane you see when you walk in. And everything we've done for Camp Salsley over the last 10 years has just been a blessing for us and a personal project for me. You never get a second first impression, and that's something I take very seriously. On this sign, we took the old 1940s photograph of Franklin, and we actually spent hours in Photoshop trying to blur the pixels to make it look like a, like a realistic, like a modern day photograph. And the gold and the black pays homage to the local school district, which plays a big part in our community. And the red and the white lettering really maximizes the legibility. But this sign isn't really about typography, or it's not really about graphic design. It's about the man standing on it and the man we're dedicating it to here today. It's important that we honor our veterans like Franklin Salsley. The men of World War II are the greatest generation. The men in this photo and the men of World War II, they went through some things we can't even fathom, and some, like Franklin, gave their lives so that we can enjoy the freedoms we have today. And it's important that we remember that and not take it for granted. When I think of words like courage, heroism, bravery, the flag raiser photo is one of the first things for me that comes to mind. The flag raising photo taken on Iwo Jima on Mount Suribachi has a big statue dedicated to it in Washington, D.C. It currently sits behind a statue on the President's desk to remember him of American heroism, and is one of the most iconic photos of American history. This single image captures what words can't, but if I had to put it into words, I would say, to me, it symbolizes the cost of war, the power of teamwork, and the hope of victory. Qualities that, if you take and apply ownership of them to your own life, will make you brave, courageous, and a winner. Days after this photo was taken, Franklin was shot to death at 19 years old by an enemy sniper. Franklin never knew what this photo would become, or how iconic it would be. And he was never really after glory or fame. He just wanted to do what was right. And I would think one could argue that 81 years later, maybe that's why we're all still here talking about him honoring him as a veteran. He answered the call. He did what was right, even when nobody was watching. That's an example I think we could all follow. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Jay Whitehead at Camp Salsley for the partnership we've had over the years. I'd like to thank Willie Jurls for donating the sign so we could do something good for the community and honor a fallen veteran. And all of us, all of those here who has served or is actively serving in our great military, thank you for your service.
Heck, you come on out and speak at the camp. I want to invite the mayor. Mayor's become a good friend, and he's let us partner with him on another project. But, Mayor, come on out.
Thank you, folks. Welcome everybody here today. This is an important day for us. Every person that comes into Flemingburg this way, they're going to see this sign. And they're going to know even more about Franklin Salsley when they get in our county. I think it's a great thing. Of course, I'm Will Partial. I'm cousin. And remember, his mother and her sisters and stuff talking on the porch. It was a very important thing to us. Those things are memories that you never forget. I want to thank Camp Salsley for what they've done. They've helped us downtown. We're developing a park. We're calling it Salsley Park. And it's really been great to me. And I want it for the family also, that everybody can enjoy this. Veterans can come. We're going to have a picnic table where in the wheelchair veteran can pull right up and sit and eat also. It's a development, it's a phase that I'm doing a little at a time. Of course, you have to watch your money as you go. But I want to thank the cadets, Jay Whitehead, for what all has happened. He's back here. It's really rolling. And I think it's great respect to our community for Franklin Salsley. Just this morning again, I turned on the news, got a flash, the flag raiser, just as he was going through some things. So it's the most seen photograph, I think, probably in the world maybe today. It shows that our freedom is just, they didn't give up. They wanted to do this for our communities, families, so we'd be free today. And I want to thank Camp Salzy for what they're doing. It shows that we're moving on. Folks, it's here.
Well, Mitch person I've known for 20, 25 years. And, he's a really good guy. And one of his sons is one of our cadets. One of our cadet areas. He's out of uniform. Don't get upset with him. But, we'll have to get him back in uniform here soon. But Jonathan, yeah. Good morning. It's an honor to be here today as we had our latest installment honoring Franklin Salzy. As the mayor said, we're really rolling in this community honoring Franklin Salzy. He is one of the endearing symbols of World War II in American history. As the mayor said, that's probably the most recognized and shared photo in American history. But it's more than just a photo. It's more than just a great symbol. A lot of people don't realize that this photo was used as the principal marketing piece in the 7th War Bond Drive. And so the United States government saw fit to try to raise money in order to help sustain the World War II effort. $26 billion was raised as a result of this symbol and what it stood for. When you think about the amount of money
Bluetooth connected.
$26 billion is, in today's terms, that would be $500 billion. That paid for the Manhattan Project 13 times over. But Franklin Salzy is more than just a symbol. He's a real life, was a flesh and blood person, and a person rooted here in his community. And his family are here today. And we're so honored that in our community, so there were a total of six flag raisers when we were here. Two of them are buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. One's buried in Hollywood, one's buried in Iowa, and another's buried in Manhattan. And so we're the only community that I know of that keeps its rural roots, where you can go and you can actually see Franklin's birthplace. You can actually go and see his gravesite with ease. So it's really special what we have here. There are 3 lessons that I try to tell young people that I think you can take from Franklin's legacy. And the first is volunteer. A lot of people don't realize Franklin was drafted into the Army in 1944. And he looked at it and he said, I'm going to go. I've got to go and serve my country now, and it's my time. But I want to do more than simply serve in the Army. World War II was winding down in Europe at the time, and he looked at it and he said, I want to be in the Marines because I want to be part of the war effort. And so he actually volunteered for the Marine Corps on the heels of his being drafted, and joined the Marines and was immediately signed to be part of the unit that would ultimately take Iwo Jima. So to those young cadets, you're going to hear people say, never volunteer for anything. Sergeant Tim, First Sergeant Tim, heard them saying never volunteer for anything. It's something that we hear. I'm sure Sergeant Smith has heard that in the military. People say don't volunteer. I'm going to tell you, volunteer. Volunteer for Ranger School. Volunteer for Air Corps. Volunteer for the Sniper Corps. Do what you can. Volunteer for Warrant Officer School. I'm sure it's with you. In order to position yourself to ultimately do better. Second, everyone knows Franklin for that terrific symbol, Dwayne. That photo was taken February 23rd, 1945. What people don't always realize is Franklin died
March 21st, 1945. So over that almost 30-day period, Franklin Sousley was involved in some of the most brutal combat that we have ever seen in the United States military history. It's fascinating. I encourage you to read on it sometime, and anybody that's interested in that can reach me, and I'm happy to point you to some books that share their experience. But the Marines absolutely were involved in some of the most brutal, horrific combat that we have ever faced. So the day Franklin died, again, March 21st, 1945, March 20th, 1945, Franklin Roosevelt, the picture had finally gotten to the White House desk, and they processed it, and they talked about the potential for this symbol. And Franklin Roosevelt himself ordered all the flag raisers home to be part of the 7th War Bond Drive. Unfortunately, Franklin didn't get the memo. His unit didn't get the memo, not in time. And so Franklin ultimately paid the highest price, gave the ultimate sacrifice. But as you strive in your lives, in your military careers, in your civilian careers, always think about the legacy you're leaving. Franklin died not knowing the legacy that he was going to leave, not knowing that his mother would be a Gold Star mother, not knowing that he would have descendants here today talking about him more than 80 years later. So strive to volunteer, strive to persevere, and finally think about the legacy you're leaving. Thank you all.
2016, when I began to think about starting Camp Sousley, I was sitting in my home, and I talked to the Nazarene Church about buying the property, and I thought, what will I call this camp? So I went online and I typed in who was a famous military person from Columbia County, Kentucky, and Franklin's name came up. And just like a lot of people, I didn't know much about Franklin or anything like that, but from that day I began to learn who he was, and once I kind of got things rolling, I wanted to meet with the family, ask them permission to allow us to use that name, because they're not going to believe this, but running a real camp sometimes is difficult, because there's right people out there who don't want you to succeed. And misspelled your name or not, so I wanted to make sure that the family was okay. I think in our first conversation with Dwayne, I said, all in one batch, and hopefully over the years we've kept that commitment. But Dwayne to come off and say,
I'm Dwayne Price. I'm a nephew of Franklin Sousley, and first of all, I want to introduce my other family members that are here. My two brothers, JR and Vincent, are here, and my mom, Geneva. We try to get her to come every time, because I tell a lot of people this. If you've ever read Ron Elliott's book, the first chapter, I always said that she made us go to the ceremonies. When it was to code out to Elizabeth, when they have it every year in February, she would always make us go. So I look back now, and I'm really glad she did make me go. I didn't know what the big deal was then, but I do now. But I want to introduce them. Jay said a few things there. He contacted me. I've been the contact for the family pretty well since my aunts passed away. They took over for my grandmother, Goldie. I always want to mention Goldie. There wasn't a lady any prouder for Franklin than she was. She never turned down an interview. But how proud she would be of what Jay has done for Franklin since they started this camp. And I think my family members will agree with me. But when he first contacted me, you know, I said I've got to talk to my other siblings and make sure they're good with it. You always got concerns, and he was right. You know, you got concerns. You don't want it to, damage his name. And it's probably one of the best things we've ever done for Franklin is let them name that Camp Sousley. Things that he has done for him. We've also started the Franklin Sousley Foundation. Jay's involved in that. The sheriff's involved. Jonathan's involved. Some different people here in the county, and they're doing great things. I want to bring this up. I don't know if it's supposed to or not, but Russell Theater, July 24th, am I right?
Yes.
July 24th, they're going to have Flags of Our Fathers playing down there, and we're sponsoring it. The foundation is. So if you're not doing anything July 24th, go down to Russell. If you've ever been to the Russell, I did many years ago, but it's just a treat to go in there. But we're just doing different things. We try to meet once a month, but if you have a classroom, a meeting, whatever, and you want someone to come and do a presentation on Franklin, contact us. Whether it be me, Jay, Jonathan, Tim, one of the other members, we'll try to make it happen. Because that's what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to get the word out, and we don't want people to forget who he is. When we started the foundation, I made a comment. Dr. Wilson, the principal at the middle school, is also in there. I said, if you went into a classroom today and asked who knew who Franklin Sousley was, how many people would raise their hand? You might have 2 or 3. We're hoping that before it's said and done, everybody will raise their hand, especially in Fleming County and surrounding counties. But if you have anything, you want a presentation, just let us know. But I just want to thank everybody that has something to do with this. Willie Gerald's, good friend of mine. We've worked together at times. I appreciate what he done. All the foundation, the cadets, mayor. I don't want to forget the mayor, what they've done here in the city for the Sousley Park. I think it's a great thing. It's down there by the mural. I think it's going to benefit our community great, and I do appreciate it, Mayor, you and the city. But Jay, again, I want to thank you for what you've done. We greatly appreciate it. Our family does. Anytime you need anything, you just let us know. Thank everybody for being here.
God's about to tell us to go home. But I want to thank a few people. Nita Ellison is one of my directors, and she's done a tremendous job with all the kids. Sergeant Timms, if it wasn't for Sergeant Timms and his wife, we wouldn't be here. Because the first few years were a dramatic part of my life, because people didn't want me to succeed. They didn't want this camp to succeed. And Sergeant Timms has to sometimes play the bad guy and keep everybody in line, and I can play the good guy, so we kind of complement each other. But he put this thing together like that, and it looks good. He did a great job with cadets and the flags and everything like that. So our public can thank him and his wife for all they do for us. 2016, I started Camp Sousley, and every year, after the first couple of years, we grow. And this is the biggest year we've ever had, and it's really been a blessing because it gives us opportunities to do more than just train kids. And my hope was that we would reach a point that we could give back to the community. And about 4 years ago, we really started doing that. Previously, the one thing we could really do was tell Franklin's story, as Dwayne was talking about. We'd have kids from all over the world come in here, and the first day Sergeant Timms would say, "Where's Franklin Sousley?" None of them knew. By the time they left and went back to another state or another country, they knew all about Franklin. They'd been out to the cemetery, they'd seen Flags of Our Fathers, and we told them about who Franklin was. And we'd say, well, who's 17, who's 18 years old? And they'd raise their hand and say, well, Franklin was 19 years old. And he wasn't much older than you. Look at the effect that his life had on the world. And that was really the only contribution we could do, was send these kids home to tell Franklin's story. After that, things kind of grew and had a little bit of money so we could give back and do a few things. And so each year we do a project. And I guess the first project was the headstone for his mom. And we were real proud about that. They signified her as a Gold Star mother. And then the next one was the statue downtown. And that was an experience because I ended up having to buy that from China. And I followed it on the internet all the way from China. And my lady said, well, it's going to go to California and then it's going to go around the bottom and come up to New York. And I followed it all the way over to California. And the next day I got up and I was going they had dropped it off California and they'd taken it in a truck and brought it to us. And it made it all the way from China to the front of Mount Hope Road, and some person with the road department said, you can't bring that truck back. You made it all the way from China and you can't get 1 mile down the road to drop it off. So Sergeant Timson had to run to Moorhead with a trailer and drop it on our trailer and bring it. So that was an experience. And then the next project, I guess, was Homestead was supposed to be a 1-year project, but it took a year and a half. So this little project is kind of in between, because we had spent a lot of time and effort on the homestead, and if you haven't seen it, we're real proud of that. We ask you to go out and look at that. It's got 2 historic signs, and we had some battles with there. I tried to get the state to pay for a historic sign, and they told me there are more historically significant things to make a sign for than that. You're wrong. And so we paid for it. We paid for 2 of them. One talking about Franklin and what he did, and the other one talking about the community of Hilton. And then one of our cadets' fathers built the homestead, basically tore down the barn and rebuilt it in another location to look as close as we could to the only photograph that was in the Gazette back in the 70s. And so we're real proud of that. But this summer was coming up, and we had dedicated the homestead in the spring, and I was going, well, we got to do something. And so Mr. Gerald called him on the phone and said, hey, can I buy your sign? And he said, well, give me the money. I said, that's great. And then Wednesday came out, and we met him, and he said, okay, can you do this? Well, Winston always says yes. And I said, Winston, can you do this? Absolutely, no problem at all. I'll take it. And he does. So he's an amazing young man. Just turned 30 years old. You know, at 65 years old, I didn't think I'd be doing this. Matter of fact, I thought I'd be president of the United States. That didn't work out. But this has been the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done, is to see young people grow as individuals. I talk to parents around the world, and I say, we want them to go mentally, physically, and emotionally like they do. Whether or not they come for 2 weeks or they come for 5 years, we want them to have gain something from the experience. So the last people I want to thank you. Come out on a Saturday, rainy day, I really appreciate it, because we put forth the effort, and we appreciate it when people support us in that effort. So stay tuned. There'll be another project next summer, and we're trying to figure out what it is. But thank you again, and appreciate your time and being with us today.
I got the hard part. This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you again for coming out.